Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Dear students, you are welcome in this class. Today we are going to discuss movement of nutrients in soil and their uptake by plant roots. So, learning objectives of this class are: learn the mechanism of movement of ions to the plant roots, and then describe the processes of nutrient uptake by the plant roots. Means there are two steps in this, or two part of this lecture. One is how ions or nutrients move to the plant roots, how they are accessible to the plant root, and then how the root takes them inside. So, let us see some difficult terms or glossary or terminology, because it will help you to understand the rest of the lecture. So, for example, you will see active transport. This is with respect to nutrient. Movement of molecules or ions across a membrane from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration against the concentration gradient requiring the cellular energy. So, there are 2-3 important points in this definition. First thing is that molecules and ions, they move. Second aspect is that membrane is necessary. When they move across the membrane and it is against the concentration gradient, means from higher concentration to lower concentration, from lower concentration to region of higher concentration, and then you require energy also. Then next is apoplastic movement. Apoplast is the space outside the plasma membrane within which material can diffuse freely. Means it is between plasma membrane and cell wall. It is slowed down by the Casparian strips in roots. Next is ATP. It is known as adenosine triphosphate, an organic compound providing energy to the cell. As most of you are aware that ATPs are the source of energy for the plant cells. Nutrient carriers, a theory explaining the transport of nutrients from the surface of root into the root cells, occurring by means of carriers. So, this carrier theory we will try to understand in detail. The nutrient uptake, process of ingesting nutrients by plant roots, or it is the transfer of the nutrient ions across the soil root interfaces into the plant cell. Next is plasma membrane, microscopic membrane made up of lipids and proteins, forming external boundary of the cytoplasm of a cell or encloses a vacuole. And most of you are aware that in the plant cells, plasma membrane is enclosed by cell wall. Then plasmodesmata or plasmodesma, microscopic channels on the cell walls of the plant cells, helping the movement and needful communication between the plant cells. So, plasmodesma are just entry or exchange points through which the substances passes from one cell to another cell. Soil compaction, the compression of a mass of soil into a smaller volume. Symplastic movement, the diffusion of water or low molecular weight solutes in the inner side of the plasma membrane is called as symplastic movement. Transpiration, water loss from the aerial parts of the plants, for example, leaves, stems and flowers. You will observe later that transpiration is very important for mass flow of the nutrients in soil. The nutrients supplying power of the soils, the capacity of the soil to supply nutrients to growing plants from the labile, exchangeable and the moderately available forms. This is known as nutrient supplying power or capacity of the soil. Then desorption, it is opposite of adsorption, mitigation of adsorbed entities or ions of the adsorption sites. Desorption is the inverse of the adsorption. Next is diffusion coefficient. It is proportionality constant that indicates the ability of a material to allow gases and ions to flow under a partial pressure or concentration gradient. Nutrient interaction, a term usually used to describe the response from two or more nutrients applied together that deviates from additive individual responses when applied separately. Nitrogenase is very important. This is enzyme, the specific enzyme system required for biological nitrogen fixation. Denitrification is the reduction of nitrogen, maybe nitrate are converted into N2 or N2O to molecular nitrogen or nitric oxide by microbial action or biochemical activity. Labile, a substance will be called labile that is readily transformed or used by microbes. Rhizosphere, a soil zone near the plant roots where microbes flourish in greater numbers and have more activity than in the bulk soil. Roots release many exudates which supply food that increases microbial activity. Nutrient concentration versus content. Many times students get confused that what is the difference between nutrient concentration and nutrient content. They use them interchangeably. For example, if I express concentration of phosphorus in ppm, 20 ppm, I cannot express it in terms of kg per hectare. Kg per hectare will be content and this percentage will be the concentration because it is weight by weight. So, you can see concentration is usually expressed in grams per kilogram, means weight by weight, or milligrams per kilogram of dry or fresh weight, and content is usually expressed as weight per unit area. You must underline it, weight per unit area, for example kilogram per hectare. So, this is in 1 hectare, which is area. The nutrient efficient plant, a plant that absorbs, translocates or utilizes more of a specific nutrient than another plant under conditions of relatively low nutrient availability in the soil. Means a plant who can absorb a particular nutrient under deficient condition, it can survive, it will not face any difficulty of that particular nutrient. So, such kind of plants are referred as nutrient use efficient plant. Now, first we will see how the nutrients will move from soil solution to the root, or how the root will access the nutrients. So, in this case nutrients move by 3 mechanisms to plant roots. One is root interception. Here the root will reach the nutrients or soil solution present in soil solution, and mass flow from soil solution, nutrients or ions move in mass. You can see in this picture the relative concentration of ions or nutrients in mass flow. It is a very heavy population or heavy density of these ions under mass flow. And you see diffusion also from higher concentration to lower concentration, from solution to the root they are reaching. So, these are the 3 important mechanisms by which the nutrients reach in the axis of the roots. Now, the first one we will see in detail, root interception. Root interception represents exchange of ions through physical contact between the root and mineral surfaces. So, root directly comes in the contact of the ions or nutrients. Ion absorption by root interception is enhanced by increasing the quantity of absorbing roots in a given volume of soil. If we have more extension of roots in the given volume of soil, then we can expect more root interception. As roots develop and exploit more soil, soil solution and soil surfaces retaining adsorbed ions are exposed to the increasing root mass. Ions such as hydrogen adsorbed to the surface of root hairs may exchange with ions held on the surface of clays and organic matter because of the intimate contact between roots and soil particles. That means the roots can directly absorb the exchangeable ions from the exchangeable sites. The ions held by electrostatic forces at these sites oscillate within a certain volume. When the oscillation volumes of 2 ions, hydrogen ion and potassium ion overlap, ion exchange occurs. In this way or similar way, calcium ion Ca+2 on a clay surface could then presumably be absorbed by the root and utilized by the plant. The quantity of nutrients that can come in direct contact with plant roots is the amount in a volume of soil equal to the volume of roots, and root usually occupy 1 to 3% of the soil volume. Of course, this root interception will also vary upon the kind of roots plants are having. So, normally there are 4 kind of roots or root extension or distribution in the soil system. One is that roots may be compact and shallow, means they are distributed mostly in the upper layer and they are very compact, they are not very spreading. The other kind of root may be compact but deep, they are going deeper into the soil, but still they are compact, they are not spreading. The third kind of root may be shallow spreading, they are shallow root which is spread near the soil surface. And the last one and most important one is the deep and spreading, means these kind of roots are ideal for higher interception of the nutrients. They are deep and they are spreading uniformly and they are covering very large volume of soil compared to other 3 classes of the roots. And overall roots occupy very small space of the soil, which is just 1 to 3% of the soil volume. Now see the significance of the root interception, mass flow and diffusion in ion transport to corn plants. This is by Havlin et al. 2016. This is very important table giving you idea that how much is the contribution of root interception, mass flow or diffusion for different nutrients movement. For example, see the case of nitrogen in the first column and see the percentage of percentage nutrients supplied by root interception. So, it is just 1% by root interception and 99% mass flow and 0% by diffusion. The clear message here is that most of the nitrogen moves to the plant root by mass flow. You must remember this fact. Second fact, that phosphorus, most of the phosphorus moves to the plant roots by diffusion. So, in this case only 2% is by root interception and about 4% is by mass flow and 94% is by diffusion. So, phosphorus mostly move by diffusion. Number 3 is your potassium. In case of potassium, a very small quantity, just 2% by root interception, 20% by mass flow, but most of the potassium movement is by diffusion, that is 78% in case of maize. For calcium, it is 120, 440 and 0. For magnesium, it is 55, 280 and 0 and so on. So, you can just try to study this table and find out the different mechanism by which these nutrients are moved or nutrients are moving towards the plant roots. But for nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, this mass flow and diffusion are important. Root interception of nutrients can be enhanced by mycorrhiza, a symbiotic association between fungus and plant roots. The beneficial effect of mycorrhiza is greatest when plants are growing in infertile soil, particularly in soils where nutrient deficiencies are quite common, say for phosphorus, then mycorrhiza are quite beneficial. So, mycorrhiza mostly live outside the plant root or maybe some are inside the plant roots depending upon the kind of the climate and also kind of fungi is infecting the host plant, and it helps in the uptake of water and also uptake of phosphorus and some other nutrients. Sometimes back people were thinking that mycorrhiza helps only in the uptake of phosphorus, but now it has been proved that mycorrhiza also help in the uptake of micronutrients and some other nutrients also. The extent of mycorrhizal colonization is also enhanced under condition of slightly acidic soil pH, low phosphorus, adequate nitrogen and low soil temperatures. The hyphal threads of mycorrhizal fungi act as extension of plant root systems resulting in greater soil contact, and they act just like root hairs, the thread or hypha of fungus, because they are almost very small in size, maybe just like root hair. So, they help in the absorption of substances. The two major groups of mycorrhiza are ectomycorrhizas and endomycorrhizas. The ectomycorrhizas occur mainly in the tree species of the temperate zone, but can also be found in semi-arid zone here and there. The endomycorrhizas are more widespread. The roots of most agronomic crops have arbuscular mycorrhiza, and they are commonly referred as AM fungi. Previously, people were calling them VAM, vesicular arbuscular mycorrhiza. Dear students, that terminology has been obsolete. Now it is not used. That has been totally deleted from the literature. Now you should use AM fungi. That means arbuscular mycorrhiza fungi. The endomycorrhiza are more widespread. They are very common in our cereals or legume crops. And now latest results suggest that mycorrhiza also help in the transfer of nutrients from cereal to the legume. If cereal and legumes are growing in the vicinity, say intercropping, in one row you have cereal plant, say maize, in between two rows of maize you have mung bean plant or any leguminous plant, cowpea, etc. Then cowpea is legume, it is fixing nitrogen, and this maize is a cereal crop which cannot fix nitrogen, but cereal require or maize require more nitrogen than the legume. So mycorrhiza will act as a bridge between legume root and cereal root. So from legume root the nitrogen can be transferred to the cereal crop. It has been proved conclusively. The roots of most agronomic crops have arbuscular mycorrhiza. The fungus grows into the cortex, means partly it is inside the plant cells or inside the plant. Inside the plant cells, small structures known as arbuscules, considered to be the site of transfer of nutrients from fungi to host and are formed. Means there is exchange of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates or energy materials are provided by the host plant to the fungi, and in turn fungi is giving some nutrients and water to the plant. So this is just kind of mutual relationship. One is benefiting the other. Increased nutrient absorption is due to the larger nutrient absorbing surface provided by the fungi, which can be up to 10 times that of the infected roots. Uninfected roots means 10 times more uptake of the nutrients. Fungal hyphae can extend up to 8 centimeter into the soil surrounding the roots, thus increasing the absorption of nutrient. This is really very, very wonderful. Enhanced phosphorus uptake is the primary cause of improved plant growth from mycorrhiza, which results in improved uptake of other elements also. So you can see this data very interesting. Effect of inoculation of endomycorrhiza and phosphorus on nutrient content in corn shoots. Corn commonly we call maize plant. So this is in maize plant, content in shoot, and you see there are two cases. In one case there was no fertilizer application. You can see in the row, second row, no P, means phosphorus was not used. In another case 25 ppm phosphorus was added to the soil. So you can see the differences in the uptake of the phosphorus. So you can see in case of phosphorus in the first column under nutrient, you can see if there is no mycorrhiza the value is 750, but if you use mycorrhiza the value is 1340, almost double. The content in the shoot almost doubled. See the next case also where 25 ppm phosphorus was added. If it is no mycorrhiza, 2970 is the shoot, is the content, and then if you use phosphorus and also use mycorrhiza, it is 9900. I repeat it again just to make you understand. In case of potassium, under no P supply condition, if you do not use mycorrhiza, the content in shoot is just 6000. But under no P condition, if you use phosphorus, no P condition, if you use mycorrhiza, then content in shoot is 9700, means almost 1.5 times more increase due to mycorrhiza use. Continue to see in the same row. Now you can see no mycorrhiza and mycorrhiza. So here also when phosphorus was applied at 25 ppm, you see from 17,500 it has become 19,900. So is the case in other nutrients also. See the case of manganese, where under no P condition, if you do not use mycorrhiza, the content in shoot was just 72, but it has increased to 101 when you use mycorrhiza. Similarly, under 25 ppm P added, if you do not use mycorrhiza, content in shoot is 159, it has increased to 238. The message is very clear. Either it is a nutrient starved condition, means where you have phosphorus supply in short, or whether you have sufficient phosphorus supply. According to this data, it is clear that under both conditions the mycorrhiza are useful. Then comes after root interception, let us see the another mode of nutrient transport from soil solution to the plant roots. It is by mass flow. Mass flow occurs when ions in soil solution are transported to the root as a result of water uptake, transpiration by the plant, water evaporation at the soil surface, and percolation of water in the soil profile. Transport of ions in the soil solution to the root surfaces by mass flow is an important factor in supplying nutrients to the plants. The quantity of nutrients reaching roots by mass flow is determined by the rate of water flow or the water consumption of plants and the average nutrient concentration in the soil water. Mass flow can supply an excess of calcium, magnesium and several micronutrients and most of the soluble nutrients such as nitrate, chloride and sulfate. So, these are the ions which are transported by mass flow. As soil moisture is reduced, increased soil moisture tension means once your soil moisture reduces, the soil moisture tension increases. Water transport to the root surface decreases. Mass flow is also reduced at low temperatures because transpiration demand by plants and water evaporation at the soil surface decreases at low soil temperature. The third way is diffusion. So, let us see in detail what happens in diffusion, how the ions or nutrients move from solution to the root. Diffusion occurs when an ion moves from an area of high concentration to one of low concentration. As roots absorb nutrients from the surrounding soil solution, the nutrient concentration at the root surface decreases compared with the bulk soil solution concentration. Thus, a nutrient concentration gradient is established that causes ions to diffuse towards the root. A high plant requirement for a nutrient results in a large concentration gradient favoring a high rate of ion diffusion from the soil solution to the root surface. Most of the phosphorus and potassium move to the root by diffusion. So, these examples you must remember that phosphorus and potassium move to the plant roots by means of diffusion. Diffusion occurs based on Fick's law, which is given by the equation F is equal to minus capital D dC by dx, where F is the diffusion rate, means quantity diffused per unit cross section per unit time. dC by dx is the concentration gradient, C is the concentration and D is the diffusion gradient and x is the distance. Ion uptake by roots, which is responsible for creating and maintaining the diffusion gradient, is strongly influenced by temperature. With the range of about 10 to 30 degrees centigrade, an increase of 10 degrees centigrade usually causes the rate of ion absorption to go up by factor of 2 or more. Means relatively increased temperature will increase the diffusion rate. Nutrient diffusion is slow under most soil conditions and occurs over very short distances in the vicinity of the root surface. Typical diffusion distances are 1 centimeter for nitrogen, 0.2 centimeter for potassium and 0.02 centimeter for phosphorus. Means nitrogen can travel longer distances in diffusion, however phosphorus travels the least distance and potassium in between nitrogen and phosphorus. Roots do not absorb all nutrients at the same rate, causing certain ions to accumulate at the root surface, especially during periods of rapid absorption of water. The above situation results in back diffusion, where the concentration gradient is away from the root surface and back toward the bulk soil solution. It can however also happen within the soil. Nutrient diffusion away from the root is much less common than diffusion toward the root. However, higher concentration of some nutrients in the rhizosphere can affect the uptake of other nutrients. The importance of diffusion and mass flow in supplying ions to the root surface depends on the ability of the solid phase of the soil to replenish or buffer the soil solution. Ion concentrations are influenced by the types of clay, minerals in the soil and the distribution of cations and anions on the cation exchange capacity or AEC. CEC means cation exchange capacity and AEC means anion exchange capacity. For example, the ease of replacement of calcium from colloids varies in order of peat, kaolinite, illite and montmorillonite. This kaolinite, illite, montmorillonite, these are the clay minerals. An 80% calcium saturated 2:1 clay provides the same percentage of calcium ion release as a 35% calcium saturated kaolinite or a 25% calcium saturated peat. Mass flow and diffusion processes are also important in nutrient management. They are playing a very significant role in the management of nutrients. Let us see how they play this role. Soils that exhibit low diffusion rates because of high BC. BC is buffering capacity of the soil. Low soil moisture or high clay content may require application of immobile nutrients near the roots to maximize nutrient availability and plant uptake. Now, let us see the factors affecting nutrient supply to the roots. So, first of all, processes and factors involved in nutrient transfer from soil to the plant. First process is root development. So, root length, root distribution, root morphology, diameter and hair. So, all these root parameters, whether it is length, distribution, morphology or diameter or number of hairs per unit length of the root will decide the movement of nutrients from soil to the plant. Similarly, nutrient uptake, concentration of root surface, kinetics of uptake, all these will affect the nutrient uptake, and then transport from soil to root by mass flow or by diffusion. It will be definitely affected by transpiration, we have explained it, and concentration of soil solution, concentration of the gradient. These 3 points are important that will affect the transport from soil to the roots. Mobilization by roots, desorption, dissolution, hydrolysis of organic compounds. Depletion of soil solution, root exudates means root exudates contain hydrogen ion, bicarbonate ion and reducing agents, chelates and organic anions etc. Chemical soil composition, pH of soil solution, enzymes, for example phosphatase etc. They will all affect the mobilization of nutrients by the plant roots. Mobilization by associated organism, mycorrhizal infection or and bacteria. Now, let us get introduced to the ion absorption by the plant. Now, by 3 processes root interception, mass flow or diffusion, all the ions or most of the ions or molecules or substances have reached to the plant roots. Now, these ions or nutrients want to enter the roots. So, how this ion absorption or nutrient uptake happens? Now, we will discuss this subject. So, ion absorption by plants and overview. Once nutrients are at the root surface, they enter the outermost root cells where they are transported through the plant. Ion transport out of the root also occurs and can influence rhizospheric pH. Thus, it is important to understand how ions and water move into plant roots. Means sometimes it can be a two-way process. Sometimes ions may enter the root and sometimes they may come out of the roots also, depending upon the plant, its growing stage, and of course soil conditions and climatic conditions. Plant uptake of ions from the soil solution can be described by passive and active processes. These are two very important processes. One is passive process and other is active process, where ions passively move to a boundary through which ions are actively transported to organs in plant cells that metabolize the nutrient ions. Solution composition or ion concentrations outside and inside of the boundary are controlled by different processes, each essential to plant nutrition and growth. Now, this is very interesting data or table. It shows different areas of root for nutrient absorption. What part of root is important for which nutrient uptake? So, in the first column you have crop, then name of the nutrient, then area of absorption, then reference, means this work has been done or quoted by these references. So, first take the crop barley. In barley, suppose the nutrient is calcium. So, it is mostly absorbed in root apical region, reported by Clarkson in 1985. Then barley, for example iron, again barley is absorbed at root apical region, again by Clarkson. For corn, iron is absorbed by entire root surface. For several crops, potassium, nitrate, ammonium and phosphate are absorbed by entire root surface by Clarkson 1985. For example, for corn, potassium accumulation, root elongation zone, Sharp et al. 1990. Then for corn or maize, nitrate absorption is root elongation zone is the region where the active absorption happen, and then reported by Taylor and Bloom in 1998. Corn and rice, ammonium, which is very important for rice, root apical region, Comer and Bloom 1998, and for several crops different ions, apical regions of the root, axis or branches, and different ions in entire root surface, Nye and Tinkers. So, this is how you can see that in most of the cases area of absorption of nutrients are root apical region, entire root surface, root elongation zone, etc. Now, nutrient uptake by plant roots, the actual process. Nutrients come in contact with plant roots by root interception, mass flow and diffusion. Of course, this has been covered. These nutrients will now enter the plant roots and get transported into the plant cells. So, this process is quite complicated and difficult of course, but I will try to make it simple so that each one of you understand it. So, nutrient uptake by plants can be addressed into two parts. One is uptake of nutrients or ion by roots from the rhizosphere, and other is uptake and transport in the plant cells or the system. So, nutrient and water uptake happens at the root hairs and the rest of the root epidermis. These are the zones or regions. Let us see the nutrient uptake and transport in plant cells. So, here there is one table you are seeing on the screen, mechanisms of nutrient uptake and transport in plant cells. So, it is in two parts. First part A is nutrient uptake by roots. Number 2 or B part is transport movement of nutrients or ion into plant cell. You must see this classification carefully. If you understand this classification, then the rest of the part will be much easier for you. So, nutrient uptake by roots means just entry of nutrients into the root, and then they pass through the cells from one cell to another cell. So, that process is called as transport of nutrients or movement of nutrients or ions into plant cells. So, nutrient uptake by roots, it is in two parts or two mechanisms. One is apoplast, transmembrane and symplast pathways. There are three pathways in one group which are apoplast, transmembrane and symplast pathways. Number 2, two pathway for nutrient uptake by root is diffusion and cation exchange. Then comes the transport or movement of nutrients or ions into the plant cells. It is in by three mechanisms. See the three mechanism. Number one is passive transport. Number two is active transport. Number three is membrane transport. Now come to the passive transport. In passive transport, there are three different theories, and these are: number one, ion exchange theory; number two, Donan effect and equilibrium. Many times you must have heard about the Donan effect and Donan equilibrium. Today we are going to see it, going to understand it also. Then mass flow. The next, number two, pathway for active pathway for movement of nutrients into the cell is ATP mediated ATPase pumps. ATP mediated ATPase pumps. Number two, cychrome pumps, and number three, phospholipids as carrier. Now come to the number three, that is membrane transport. Membrane transport is carried out by three mechanisms. Number one is channels, number two is pumps, and number three is carriers. Now in pumps there are two different mechanisms. One is known as primary active transport and other is known as secondary active transport. And this secondary active transport is further divided into symplast or contrast port or antiport. Antiport is called as counter transport. So I hope that you must be clear about this kind of classification, so that rest of the part will become much easier for you to understand. Now start with the apoplast, transmembrane and symplast pathways. These are the pathways for nutrient uptake. So the free intercellular spaces of the epidermal and cortical cells are called as apoplast. In the cells there are certain epidermal and cortical spaces. The apoplast facilitates the movement of ions and water in root tissues which do not need movement through the impermeable membrane. Means some of the solutes or some of the materials are transported by impermeable membranes, but those kind of ions or molecules which cannot be transported by impermeable membrane or pass by impermeable membrane are absorbed by apoplastic mechanism. Casparian strips force water and ions in the apoplastic region to cross the endodermis by passing through the plasma membrane. Thus, in this case, this Casparian strips becomes very important. The cellular connections and plasmodesma help in the movement of ions from cell to cell in symplastic movement. Now see apoplast, transmembrane and symplast pathways in this picture, and you see one solid line black color is apoplast pathway and the lighter line symplast pathway. Apoplast pathway means passing through the cell and symplast pathway means passing through the cytoplasm. So you see the cell wall, one cell wall is connected to the another cell wall, and in between these two cell wall there is plasmodesma. Plasmodesma is a kind of opening connecting two cells. And then cytoplasm is also there. So lighter color of the line, you can see this is symplast pathway, means from cytoplasm to cytoplasm. So apoplast and symplast pathways have been depicted in this picture. I just got it from Wikipedia, and you can also access this picture from Wikipedia. Then uptake of nutrient ions. Nutrients or ions move towards the plant root by diffusion and cation exchange. Diffusion occurs on the basis of the concentration gradient. Cation exchange happens in response to the release of a hydrogen ion from the roots, causing a change in the soil pH around the roots. When water and nutrient ions enter plant root, they move through either apoplastic, transmembrane or symplastic pathways. Afterwards, movement of nutrients occur via xylem. Nutrient uptake differs with the area or section of the root. In one of the slides, we have discussed how different root parts absorb different nutrients. In some cases, it is apical zone, in other cases, or meristematic zone, or some other zones are there. However, in some cases, entire root is responsible for absorbing the nutrients. Transport or movement of nutrients or ions into the plant cells. Plasma membrane and tonoplast are the major barriers for the movement of ions or nutrients and selectively regulate the movement of water and nutrients into and outside the cell. I think you have already studied plasma membrane. This is very important membrane. It is enclosed by cell walls in the plant cell. As you know, in animal cells there is no cell wall, but this membrane is there in both animal and plant cells. So, in plant cells it selectively allows entry of certain compounds, ions or molecules, but it does not allow some of the molecules or ion. So, this is very selective membrane. The characteristics of these barriers are permeable to oxygen, carbon dioxide as well as certain compounds. Semi-permeable to water means it may allow sometimes and it may not allow water, means restricted permeability of the water. Selectively permeable to inorganic ions and organic compounds, amino acids and sugars. Selectively permeable means it allows entry or movement of certain compounds, however, it does not allow movement of certain other compounds. Therefore, it is called as selectively permeable membrane. Nutrient ions can be transported across these barriers actively or passively. There are two means by which these barriers can be crossed by the nutrients. One is by active way, other is by passive way. We will discuss all this shortly. Now, see transport or movement of nutrients into the plant cells, how it is happening. So, there are three major mechanisms. Number one is passive transport, number two is active transport, number three is membrane transport. In passive transport, we have three different mechanisms. One is ion exchange theory, number two is Donan effect and equilibrium, number three is mass flow. In the active transport, there are three different mechanisms. One is ATP mediated ATPase pumps, cytochrome pumps and phospholipids as carrier. And the third one and important one is membrane transport. So, membrane transport is by three different means. One is channels, number two is pumps and number three is carriers. In pumps we have two categories, primary active transport and secondary active transport. This secondary active transport happens in two ways. One is symport, which is known as co-transport, and antiport, which is known as counter transport. This is just showing you again to make you more clear this concept. Now, we go to passive transport. It occurs along the concentration gradient, means with the concentration gradient. Nutrients diffuse into the cell if the concentration of a particular nutrient or ion falls less inside the cell. Means in passive transport the energy is not required, use of ATP is not required. Energy is not required and the nutrient concentration is maintained for enhancing the nutrient absorption. It is mostly by concentration gradient that the nutrients are moving from one place to another place. It happens by three mechanisms. There are three different mechanisms for passive transport of ions. Number one is ion exchange theory. Exchange of cations present on the soil clay and protons present on the surface, root surface. Carbonic acid in the soil dissociate into protons and bicarbonate ions, and these protons exchange with cations present on the root surface. So, this ion exchange is happening. Number two kind of it is also kind of passive transport, Donan effect and equilibrium. Cell membrane has a negative charge that allows anions to enter it. Plants can accumulate about 30 times the cations passively against the concentration gradient to balance the electrochemical potential difference that has been generated. The equilibrium defined by F.G. Donan, he was the scientist or plant physiologist who was responsible for this Donan effect. The ratio of positively charged ions inside to outside will be equal to the negatively charged ions inside to outside. The third mechanism of passive transport is mass flow. Due to active transpiration, ions are taken up from root to shoot xylem. This leads to a concentration gradient and water pressure gradient which drives the mass flow. Number 2 is active transport. It happens against the concentration gradient, and this type of movement involves energy because it is against the concentration gradient, means from lower concentration they are moving towards the higher concentration. So, there are three major mechanisms for active absorption. Number 1 is ATP mediated ATPase pumps. Ions are actively absorbed by using energy released by hydrolysis of ATP. For example, H-ion, ATPase pumps. So, this is really very important mechanism, but in this case plant need to use certain amount of energy for the uptake of nutrients or ions. It is not free, plant has to spend some energy in this case. Number 2, active transport is by means of cytochrome pumps. Whenever a tissue is placed in salt solution, the associated respiratory increase is called salt respiration, which is mediated by iron containing membrane proteins called cytochromes. So, cytochromes are actually kind of protein that contain iron. Protons and electrons are produced due to dehydrogenation. Dehydrogenation means removal of hydrogen. Dehydrogenation reaction in the inner side of the impermeable membrane due to difference in oxygen concentration. Now, we continue with the cytochrome pumps which are part of active transport. The ferric ions on the outside of the membrane bound cytochrome pumps accept an electron and get reduced, and subsequently the electron is transferred or carried outside by the cytochrome chain. This cycle repeats after the next anion is taken up by the ferric ion from outside, and this concept was proposed or propounded by Lundegaard in 1954. And third mode of active transport could be phospholipids as carriers. In this case, diacyl glycerides like lecithins act. Now, third important mechanism of nutrient transport is membrane transport. So, membrane transport is mediated by specialized proteins which are described below. Number 1 is channels. So, what are the channels for membrane transport? These are transmembrane proteins that exist as membrane pores which selectively permits solute based on its biochemical and biophysical properties. The entry of ions is determined by the layer of hydration. For example, aquaporins. Then in membrane transport, the next is pumps. Number 2 is by pumps. So, these are transmembrane proteins that transport ions actively by TP hydrolysis. Protons are pumped against electrochemical gradient which build up a positive charge due to the protons accumulated. There are two types of active transport that occur. These active transport are primary and secondary. Let us see primary active transport. What do we mean by primary active transport? Energy from ATP hydrolysis is directly used for proton transport against concentration gradient, thereby creating electrochemical potential gradient. What do we mean by ATP hydrolysis? Here the ATP is converted into ADP and energy is released. And here the potential against the potential gradient means the movement of ions is occurring from lower concentration towards the higher concentration, not as in case of diffusion. Now, we continue with the membrane transport, secondary active transport. Due to the electrochemical potential gradient that is generated as a result of primary active transport, the protons pumped outside against the concentration gradient result in a chemical potential difference of about 10 to 100 times, which is used for absorption of other ions. So, we can divide this secondary active transport into two groups. One is symport. So, symport, some people call it as co-transport. In this case, the proton moves along with another anion in the same direction. Then antiport, it is opposite. So, counter transport, where the energy generated due to the accumulation of protons is used for expelling cations, wherein the protons move inside and cations move outside. You need to remember this fact that the protons move inside and cations move outside. We continue with the membrane transport. Carriers is the third mechanism. This concept defines a specific carrier for each ion. Charged ions move through protein components across a membrane and not through the lipid part. You must remember this, that the charged ions move through protein components across a membrane and not through the lipid part. The enzyme phosphokinase mediates the formation of an activated carriers, which then accepts the ion to form the carrier ion complex on the outside of the membrane. It is always outside on the membrane. And you must remember the name of this enzyme which is mediating. The enzyme is phosphokinase. Please remember, phosphokinase. The carrier ion complex gets energized and moves through the membrane along with the carrier. Enzyme phosphatase changes the conformation of the carrier ion complex and releases the ion in the inner membrane. Now, what are the important points to remember? The availability of all essential plant nutrients in soil fluctuates depending on many factors. This nutrient availability in soil is governed by several factors like physical factor, chemical factor and biological factor. If your physical conditions of the soil are good, like if you have good soil texture, good soil structure and good water holding capacity of the soil, then the nutrient supply is more. Normally speaking, the coarse textured soils supply nutrients slowly. The quantity of nutrients in coarse textured soil is less compared to the fine textured soil. So, fine textured soils supply more nutrients. Similarly, water holding capacity or water content of the soil. If your soils are very dry, the nutrient availability will be less. If your soils are having sufficient water or good quantity of water, under those conditions the nutrient supply will be more under identical soils. Similarly, there are certain chemical properties which will affect the nutrient availability. For example, pH of the soil. The ideal range of the pH for nutrient uptake or nutrient availability is generally 6.5 to 7.5. If you lower the pH too much, the availability of certain nutrients will decline and certain nutrients will become toxic. For example, at pH around 5 or 5.5, you will have toxic levels of aluminum, iron, manganese, copper, etc. These will become toxic and they will reduce the availability of the phosphorus. So, this is dangerous. If you want to increase the availability of phosphorus and want to reduce the toxicity or concentration of iron, aluminum, manganese or copper etc., then you must correct the soil pH and bring it to the level of 7. Similarly, if you want to increase the nutrient availability, you must improve the biological properties of the soil. The quantity and quantity of microorganism in the soil, they are directly related to the fertility of the soil. So, it can be enhanced by addition of organic matter particularly organic matter rich in nutrients or rich in water, that can be easily attacked by the microbes, and they can increase their population and thereby release the nutrients. Upon the death of these microorganisms, so nutrients are released. Thus, the availability of all essential plant nutrients in soil fluctuates depending upon the many factors. It is also management of the farmers. If farmer is a good manager, he is doing everything in right time, then he can increase the availability of the nutrient, particularly in case of chemical farming where farmers use fertilizers. So, fertilizer farmers should remember 4 things, that they should use the best source, right source should be used which gives the maximum efficiency of the nutrient, then right amount. It should not be used in excess, because if you use one particular nutrient in excess, it can reduce the availability of the other. So, they should be used in right amount, right proportion also. For example, for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, the ideal ratio is 4:2:1. So, we must take care of this according to this, and similarly the method of fertilizer application, normally phosphatic fertilizer should be placed, similarly potassic fertilizer should be placed. That way we can increase the availability of the nutrients supplied through the fertilizers. And this may be very resulting in deficiency or toxicity of nutrients, means excess can happen, deficiency can happen. The nutrients from the soil move towards the root by following certain mechanism of transport, which include mass flow, diffusion and root interception. We have very clearly understood in this lecture how this interception is helping roots to access the nutrients. They directly access nutrient either from soil solution or from colloids or exchangeable sites. Next was mass flow, when the nutrients or their ions move in masses along with the water and they are taken away at the time of absorption of water. In diffusion, the nutrients move from soil solution from higher concentration gradient to the lower concentration gradient towards the root. We have also seen that what are the nutrients that are moved by mass flow or by diffusion methods. The nutrients thus reaching the roots are absorbed by plants either actively or by spending energy or passively by no involvement of energy. So, friends, we have also seen how nutrients are transported from one cell to another cell, how they move radially into the plant and how they go upward. All these phenomena are also important. I would request you to read a chapter on this subject from any good book of soil fertility and nutrients. Maybe you can also consult some good book on plant physiology. Thank you very much.